we're going to use oil pastels to add value to our candy canes. We know that value means the illusion of a light on a two-dimensional surface. Our two-dimensional surface is our flat paper. And we're going to try to make these candy canes look like, or give the illusion that, they are three-dimensional. Okay, so we're going to do that adding value or the illusion of light. We know there's different values, right? We have highlights, middle values, and shadows. So here's my completed example, right? And you'll notice that I have a highlight, middle value, and shadow on each of them. I'm going to show you two different kinds, one that is using two different colors, and then one that's using one different color or is wanting to use white on them. We can see that the shadow is around the edges or what's going farther away from the light. And since these are curved, the center would be the highest up, which is why that is where our highlight is, or the brightest part. And then we used our middle values or our midtones to blend from our darkest shadow to our brightest white or our brightest highlight. So let me show you how we would do that. So you can use whatever colors that you want. So for the first one, I'm just going to use a traditional red for my red candy cane, and then that way I'll also be able to show you guys the white portions as well. So first things first, what I'll do is I'm going to add my shadows to the farthest away part on my candy cane, or the farthest down part, which is on the outside. So I'm just going to go ahead and add first, I'm just outlining them, and second I'm going to use little lines or kind of like hatching marks. And I'm going to do that on every other portion. So I'm going to keep doing that every other section on that candy cane. Now, when I get to this bottom section, it's a little bit different because I'm not just doing every other or each side. I'm also going around the bottom as well. And this is going to be true for both the bottom of the candy cane here and then the top of the candy cane over here as well, depending on which way you did your colors. So when I'm done with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to find my white. Now for this portion, it might be kind of important that you have a little scrap paper to the side, and I'm just going to rip a little piece over here to the side so that I can clean off my white to make sure that there's no other colors on there, especially if you're going to be doing different colored candy canes. Then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my white to push some of that red oil pastel to the center to create my middle value. I'm not pushing it all the way across because I want to keep a little bit of that really bright white. And then here on each edge, I'll just take my finger and smear it across to get rid of that excess white on either side. Or you could do a little bit more white oil pastel, but I like some of that to stay pretty bright. So again, what I did is I am using my oil pastel to push some of the color I used to the center, leaving a little bit in the middle completely white, and then I use my finger to blend just at either side of that. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my last two sections as all right, and now we are ready to do that white portion. And how I give the illusion that this part was white, I just inverted or reversed my colors. So you'll notice on this one, I did a streak of my color through the center and I blended it out with the white, leaving the highlights, right? I use that red as a highlight, and then I'm using the plain white as my shadow. And I know that's kind of mixed up as far as what we usually know about value, highlight, and shadow, but it kind of works for what we're doing here. So let me show you that here on these white sections. So for the white sections, all I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little streak of red through all three of these. And I'm going to use my white again now to smear some of that out from the center, leaving the edges white. And then when I'm done with that, I'm either could use my little finger to smear just up the middle, or what I could do as well, and even when I'm done smearing that, I could add a little bit extra red here to just brighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to do that now to all three of those sections. Now, what I chose to do next, I'll leave it up to you. I actually outlined everything now with red. If you don't want to do that, you don't have to, but I just like the way that it covered up some of my pencil lines, and I'm trying to use just the pointiest part of my oil pastel, and I'm just going around nice and neatly. It can be a little difficult in tracing that. It's also going to help me out when I go back through and do the background. So next week when I see you guys, we're going to be doing the background with watercolor, and that's going to help create a barrier for our watercolor so it doesn't seep into our candy canes. So now that I've shown you one with white and red, or white and another color, I'm going to show you one where I use just 2 different colors as well. Now with these candy canes, you can use as many colors as you want. You can even make a rainbow one. It's completely up to you. In fact, I think for my next one, I might try a rainbow one. So for my next one, I'm going to start with pink. You can choose whatever colors you want. I just wanted to show you kind of the difference between this one using a color in white and then using just all colors. So it's the same process as we did before. Again, check your oil pastel, make sure they're clean. And again, we're going to trace the very outside, add a little bit of that shadow. And I'm going to do that for every single one this time. So as you can see, I put all my color in here. What I would recommend when you're using multiple colors for your white is to do all of the same color as one time. You might even save the white part until you put all of the color on the entire paper. Because then what I can do, for example, with my red, is use my white on all of the red at one time, and then I don't have to clean it in between. So for example, I already have red on this for my red candy cane, so I'm going to start with that red section, so just like I did before. Now before I move on to my next section though, I'm going to wipe that off on this little piece of paper that I have, and it's just scrap paper, so anything will work for that, but you don't want this red on there when you go on to the next section. For example, this green. When I start my green, I don't want red all in my white. That's really going to ruin that nice bright green color that I'm using, right? Now again, when I'm done, I can smear a little bit, and I can also add a little additional green to really brighten that up. Now I'm going to complete that process all the way around all of that candy cane, wiping my white off in between each color, not to mix these up. It will make them muddy, not as bright and beautiful as if you had wiped your white off in between. So here's that done. And actually I have an example right here. See what happens when you actually smear some in. I don't have that bright, beautiful green. It's kind of a little bit messy, but that's all good. So today your goal is to be working on your value. You don't need to be finished today. In fact, nobody should get all the way done today. So as you can see, it just took me 7 minutes to show you guys this. And that didn't even include me finishing both of these in its entirety, right? Because I paused it sometimes. You didn't even watch me do the whole thing. It took me 7 minutes on 2. So that means I don't want you to get done today, right? Because you really should be taking your time and making these bright, beautiful, shiny, and smooth candy canes.